So I would like to say a warm welcome to everyone and to our webinar today called Man and Machine, a practical guide into implementing AI in supply chains. I'm very thrilled to see a lot of you joining in us from various corners of this world. And today we have Andreas, our CEO and founder, with us, and Carlen, our Vice President of Customer Success. And both of them will guide you through several interesting topics. And I think we should just start and jump right into it. Well, a warm welcome again. And our agenda for today is including these topics right here. As you can see, we will have a high-level introduction to our topic of today, man and machine. Then we're going to raise the question, if AI is replacing the human, followed by an overview of automated support versus autonomous systems. And then Carlen will guide you through the actual make it happen part of things. And we will talk about deployment planning and scaling, project management is in AI environment. And then after that, we're gonna talk about engagement and change management. Andreas, the stage is yours.
Thank you very much, Celine. So some studies show that in supply chain globally, across all functions, there is something in the region of 200 to 500 billion worth of manual labor that could be automated to some degree. And AI computer vision is a key driver in doing that, because many of these processes and functions are so complicated that they require that kind of artificial intelligence. But you shouldn't take my word for it. If you look on the left here, you will see a statement from DHL's Chief Commercial Officer in their recent trend radar, where they state very clearly that they see computer vision being on stage to become industry shaping, not just tinkering with the decimals, but actually industry shaping. Now, obviously, we agree with that, and we have some experiences that suggest that this is probably true. One of our customers has seen fill rate increases by 5 to 10% across their entire transportation network, and also CO2 reduction of 3 to 10% across an entire transportation chain. Now, that's rather a lot. Another of our customers has seen a savings of 1 to 2 minutes per pallet they push through their warehouses in manual handling just by automating using computer vision, and while doing that, reducing the amount of errors by as much as 95%. Now, when we come to the question of man versus machine, I think there's a tendency to think of where we are currently, what humans do currently in supply chain, and then see how can we change that. And actually, I think there's a different approach, which is to fundamentally rethink how do we go about this. And that starts with realizing, what are we good at? What are humans good at? And what are machines good at? Now, humans are very good at intuitive, dynamic, real-time decision-making on data coming from our 5 senses, hearing and smell and vision and so on. Machines, on the other hand, are very good at something humans are pretty bad at: high consistency, high volume tasks. Humans are not great at that. Scanning pallets is the obvious example, but also measuring fill rates on trucks and trailers is another. Humans are not great at this. So when we start from that point of view, we come to a different conclusion than just the tinkering. We come to the industry shaping part. And when we do that right, what we've seen certainly is that there's a competitive advantage to be had, right? Because you can reduce your cost to serve, and you can do it at a higher quality. If you go to market with that, you can undercut your competition by 3-5 percentage points every time and promise higher quality at the same cost to you in terms of serving, then that gives you a competitive advantage. And that's where we think that the rethinking of man versus machine is coming in. Go to the next one. Now, one example of us working with that is a global shipping and logistics company we've worked with for a long time now. And in one deployment, we are saving them 7 minutes per container load. Now, a facility shipping 5, 10, 20,000 containers a year, this starts adding up pretty quickly. And what we have done is essentially add cameras to a forklift that allows you to automatically capture quality imagery of what you're loading into a container, as well as scanning the barcodes and checking that that container actually needs to have that pallet inside of it. So that also makes sure that if you pick up a pallet that does not belong in this container, you're told, please don't load this one, right? Or at least if you load it, you know you're doing something that is on the edge of what should be done. So the outcome of this obviously is improved profitability. It is improved customer quality and flexibility and so on. If you take that same solution that we have here that you see with the two cameras, and you can probably see there's a tablet up near the driver that informs it of what the system is doing. And you think, could we make this autonomous? Could we completely take the human out of the equation? Well, there's a few complexities. First of all, it is cost and power. So these things run on battery, but they don't have a lot of sensors. So now you need to add proximity sensors and cameras all the way around, and probably some radio beacons to do indoor navigation and stuff like that, which then drains the battery quicker and then reduces your operating time. So you need to upgrade the battery. So that's expensive just on the face of it, right? But it gets worse, because now you have an autonomous forklift that needs to perform safe, real-time autonomous navigation indoors. Now, this is a very, very complicated problem. Those of you who have like a Roomba or one of these robots that clean your floor, you know they're not very bright. You know, they kind of navigate by random and they run into all sorts of stuff. Well, you can't really have a forklift running into all sorts of stuff, right? That's going to cause problems. Then you need it beyond just navigating safely. Now you needed to be able to marshal pallets, the right pallets in the right places in front of the right gates. And we all know what kind of dynamic state a warehouse is normally in. This is hard. This is like hard for humans. It's going to be really hard for a computer. So there is that, and all that needs to happen safely as well. That's hard to do for one forklift, one warehouse. Now scale that to 1,000 or 10,000 warehouses and hundreds of thousands of forklifts, and you have a problem that is near infinite complexity, which means that it is very expensive to solve. It is also very expensive to maintain, both in terms of the software, but certainly also in terms of the hardware. And just to give you an idea of it, the human eye is around 600 megapixels. That's a lot of data to absorb in real time, and that's what a human can do. A computer gets nowhere near that. So the amount of data that you are processing to just get anywhere near a human is just astronomically big. And that's why you get into infinite space, and infinite problems are not generally very easy to solve. So at present, the notion of replacing a forklift driver with an autonomous agent is not really, in the general sense, doable. For some really simple scenarios that you can be really descriptive with, it's possible. But in the general sense of loading, unloading, marshalling, put away, not now. Maybe in 10 years, maybe in 15 years, but certainly not now. Just the amount of computing power you need is ridiculous. So if we then take a step back and we look at the extremes of the manual versus autonomous, there's a scale, right? That starts on one side with purely manual labor, and then on the other end, you have the fully autonomous, fully automated operation. And we think that the right place to be is about here, 80% automated, which is why when we look at it in the cases we've worked with, we find that the automated support systems, which are sort of these 60 to 80% automation, actually are more effective and quicker to deploy in operation than a fully autonomous solution. And when you look at some factors like setup, cost, flexibility, and training of staff, it just turns out that that is a much more pragmatic way to go about it rather than going for the full automation. There are some cases where full automation is warranted, like distribution using things like AutoStore for automated packaging. It's perfect, works really well. Doing that in a pallet warehouse or a cross-docking warehouse, not so much. So with that, I'll hand over to Carlen.
Thank you, Andreas. So we've learned a little bit about autonomous systems. Do you go fully autonomous? Will we be replacing humans anytime soon? Probably not, is the takeaway there. But you want to introduce an AI solution to your logistics operations. How are you actually going to do it? So the first thing you need to do before you've even landed on specific solutions or anything like that is actually gain some buy-in and engagement from your team who is going to be impacted by implementing such an AI solution. So people are scared of change. It's a natural feeling. People are scared of AI. We think they shouldn't be. We're super biased, but of course, that's part of the deal. And when you're introducing new tech solutions, AI or otherwise, of course, you need to relinquish that fear, make sure people are feeling heard, and also that they feel comfortable with that transition. So of course, that buy-in and engagement is great to get right at the start before you've even landed on specific solutions. So to do that, communicate where you are now. What do you have as your current processes that you hope AI is going to help solve? Is this to limit manual work in your warehouse? Is this to increase your data set to make more informed decisions in your transport hub, and so on? And what's that future state that you're actually trying to achieve when you introduce that new solution? And how does that actually fit in with the people that'll be working with it? So make sure to highlight those benefits. And you, of course, have to be honest and transparent about any anticipated challenges that you think may arise in introducing AI. People might be nervous that their day-to-day work that they're so used to doing and they feel really good at isn't going to be part of that day-to-day anymore. So how do you make that exciting? How do you make sure that AI is taking away the boring stuff and the stuff that they don't really love to do, and they can actually shift their efforts to work that is even more productive, more efficient, and actually more fulfilling? Finally, personalize the path forward to the team members themselves. You're going to have different types of stakeholders that are going to be involved in implementing AI and then ultimately using it from the start and beyond. So make sure that people can really see themselves in that change and actually utilizing and benefiting from that AI. According to a Gallup study from a couple of years back of over 100,000 business units, high employee engagement with change or otherwise results in a 10% higher customer loyalty and their own engagement on the customer side. It also leads to about a 0.25% increase in higher profitability for organizations. And it also results in about an 18% higher productivity across your business. So engagement is key. That's the core here. So make sure you get it up front. And that helps with choosing your champions. Have people who are super bought into the system and really see it at the forefront and can help guide others who are going to be affected by the change of AI in your logistics operations, so they also see the benefits. It's not all on you if you're the innovation person or the ops manager who's ready to take charge here. Make sure you have champions throughout, so there's buy-in from top to bottom and everywhere in between. Then finally, create those regular feedback loops from implementation, even before implementation, and beyond when you're thinking about introducing AI solution there. Because again, it might be new. Maybe you're not using AI currently in your operations. And so you need to have feedback about how it's actually going. Are you collecting the data you need? Is that photo being taken in the appropriate way to capture those fill rates at the back of those trucks? Are you needing to move a little bit slower or a little bit faster when you're using, for example, our inventory unit to capture those different stock taking points within your system? So of course, implementing it is key. Getting that engagement up front for the general is important, but of course you need feedback about how it's actually going as you go. So project management is a great tool. It's a comfort zone for a lot of people. People are used to project management, regardless of industry or where they sit in the logistics space. And it's really, really powerful when you're introducing something like AI to your business. So you can think of treating ethical dilemmas of AI or changes to existing logistics workflows, sort of like project risks. So for example, when you do implement AI in your operations, will you be including any personally identifiable information or any sensitive customer data when you're, for example, seeing through computer vision items on the shelves, or you catch someone in the view of that capture? How will you secure that data? How will you make sure that you're staying compliant based on your security practices, and also that the folks in your warehouse, your transport hub, or your shipping vessel are feeling comfortable about that? Which stakeholders will be the toughest to gain buy-in from? So this could be a really wide range of folks. It's somewhere higher at the top that's concerning about budgets or these sorts of things and making sure money is going in the right place when introducing these solutions? Is it someone who's working day-to-day in the warehouse, who's nervous that their day-to-day work is going to be overtaken by a new solution being brought in? And continuing to, again, get that buy-in and engagement from them, but addressing this as a risk early on. And then finally, and this is so specific to your operations, we know every logistics business, warehouse, transport hub, and so on is unique in its own way. Even parts of the same organization, your specific warehouse could be totally different from another one that may be right down the street. So what do you anticipate to be the hardest or the most time-consuming changes to your personal day-to-day operations? And finally, how will you balance those hectic warehouse operations or transport operations when you're introducing automation and AI? It's, of course, when it's a busy setting, you've got forklifts coming in and out, you've got vehicles coming in and out. You want to make sure that you have space for actually introducing the solution, giving it the space that it needs to make sure that it also can coincide and actually help alleviate some of that known chaos that you may have in the day-to-day hustle and bustle of your warehouse. Then you can think about this as a project plan. What does your training data look like for your AI model? And actually, how are you going to get it? So first, you need to define what data you're actually going to need. So do you need to be scanning different barcodes? Do you need to take different photos for capture? Could look a myriad of ways depending on the AI that you're trying to leverage. And then how are you actually going to capture each type of data? Where is that coming from? Or are you going to pair it with an integration with your warehouse management system, for example? Or are you going to be taking pictures on the floor of your warehouse or your transport hub to capture that information? And how are you actually going to collect and use that data? And who's going to be responsible for it? Then who's going to be responsible after you collect for the cleaning of that data and the review to make sure that you're actually utilizing it, the data you're capturing is accurate, useful, and informative for your day-to-day operations. And finally, how will this data flow into your AI solution? Is it something like the Sentispec Inspector app where you take a photo with your mobile device and it flows directly into a portal where you can see your fill rates in real time? Is it something that you'd like to integrate with a different system, and so on? Then another project plan to consider is integrating AI into your existing operations, and then of course continuing to improve on that so you're having a continuous return and increase on value where possible from introducing AI to your logistics operations. So of course, the basics here, you need to choose a project lead. Someone who's going to be responsible for the day-to-day there. It may be someone who's on the floor of the transport hub. It may be someone who sits in an operations office and can oversee all the different moving parts that are going to be impacted and benefit from the AI introduction. And then, of course, work with them to outline key stakeholders across those relevant functions and set KPIs so you know that this introduction of AI is a success. We recommend starting small and then scaling from there. So introducing AI perhaps to a subset of your operations, maybe starting with a few transport routes, for example, or a subset of your warehouse to really get to know the process, see how it works, feel that buy-in, be part of the process, and then you continue to scale from there to make sure it works across your operations. And of course, as your operations grow, you'll have a great plan to do so. Super important to include any regular checkpoints to assess the integration progress, like how's it actually going, introducing this AI to your solution and to your operations day to day. Any functionality, any hiccups with that functionality that you didn't anticipate, any blockers or risks that you're thinking about, like perhaps your customer in your warehouse actually needs more stock taking done than you originally anticipated to use that solution for. And so there might be a bit of a blocker there. There might be a risk in different parts of the AI solution just to be especially mindful of. And then finally, setting milestone dates to actually transition to your AI solution fully where possible, doing so step by step so you can kind of bite-sized chunk that process so it's palatable, easy to understand, and again, people can see those different checkpoints and recognize that success as you go. And then finally, you'll want to sunset any manual process that this AI solution will be overtaking, because of course, the biggest benefit of AI is to remove those processes that you can automate where possible. So you'll want to be able to fully step back from those manual processes as much as you can. So it is super important to sort of set a timeline for yourself to push those back to the back burner. Then when it comes to deployment and ramping up, you can treat this like a project plan as well. So it's great to divide between any tasks that need to happen before deployment, during, and after the fact here. Of course, you'll need to identify any anticipated risks as soon as possible and include these in your deployment plan so that they're not surprises. You know they could be coming, and you can mitigate them even before you get started within deployment and as you go. No one likes any unexpected surprises. Of course, they come up with any project and any solution. I think pretty much everyone on this webinar can agree. You've probably been part of a project plan, and you've probably experienced something that you couldn't have anticipated in a million years. So make sure the 95% that you can anticipate is broken down within your deployment plan. Then outline those tasks and milestones step by step. Make sure to estimate any effort or timelines that you'd expect, and most importantly, assign owners to each task. So if you've got your project lead, you've chosen your warehouse ops manager to be the one to take forward your new AI solution, awesome. Make sure that they've got the right people on the floor associated with the right tasks. Hey, that ops manager may not be the one who's going to actually take the Sentispec inventory unit onto the floor. Maybe it's your work or your forklift driver. So that person needs to be the owner for that part of the process. And then your AI provider will also need to own parts of the process too, to make sure it's a true collaboration and there's clear line of sight of who's doing what to make sure that this implementation is a success. Of course, it's important to tailor to your own unique operational setup and any contingencies that may arise. So in this case, again, your unique warehouse, your unique transport hub can be totally different from another one just down the street. So make sure that when you're thinking about how to apply AI in your setting, that it's actually fitting the very real constraints you may have in your business and also works well with them and ultimately can overtake some of those more manual processes. And then, of course, you just need to check in as regularly as possible at different parts of the deployment process. This could look daily with daily stand-ups. This could look weekly with your AI provider. But regardless, you'll want to be checking around progress, any new risks that you've identified since the last check-in, any blockers since the last check-in, and of course, any updates to the process, how it's going, and any issues you've been running into there, and continuing to refine that future state to make sure that deployment is successful. And of course, you'll want to work with your team on things after deployment as well to make sure that this is a longevity conversation. This isn't something that is one and done, dust your hands, we deployed, great, send it off. You want to keep revisiting it. AI is something that you train. That's how modeling works. So you want to continue to review that with your AI provider, like us at Sentispec, and of course your internal team to make sure you're continuously capturing data. It's continuously getting ground into your day-to-day processes to make sure it's successful after deployment. So here's a deep dive into a Sentispec inventory deployment plan. For those of you who aren't aware of what our inventory solution does, it's essentially automatic stock taking. So our inventory recording unit goes into your warehouse, a forklift driver puts that on the forks, then travels it around through the different racking systems that you have to capture the different labels to see if things are in the right place, notify you if they're not, and really take out a lot of that manual stock taking effort that your team might be doing day to day. So in this case, you can see that our dummy solutions, full disclosure, you're not seeing any customer data. These are all Sentispec employees, myself included, that you're seeing here as owners. But you can see that we've got a pre-deployment, deployment, and post-deployment plan set up here. So we may have the customers fill out information like the LPNs you're using, giving us the warehouse layout so we can program that into the system and so on, and confirming who's actually going to be in attendance to make sure that, again, you're choosing those champions, we're getting that buy-in off the bat, and including any in-person training, hardware, all of those sorts of things. So you can see that we've got a whole plan that is very detailed to the letter with clear ownership. And you also see the timelines on the right-hand side of this slide to ensure that people are staying on track and that you're actually given a ton of support from either side and have that buy-in to make sure across the board you're able to successfully introduce a solution like Sentispec inventory to your warehouse.
Awesome. Well, that concludes, I think, today's webinar quite well. And as we come to an end, as you can see, I would like to say a big thank you to Andreas and Carlen for your insightful contributions today. And I think your expertise has provided, hopefully, some of the attendees with some valuable insights and perspectives on how to integrate AI into supply chains. I think it would be best if we now continue with the Q&A. And for that, I will just stop sharing here and we can then see what questions may have risen up or what people would like to know.
So one question I get asked probably the most is, how do we get started? You know, you can't open a news outlet today without seeing AI mentioned or ChatGPT or something, and everyone needs to now have an AI strategy and all of this. And I do worry there's a phenomenal amount of hype involved here, and sometimes the realism isn't always first. So my advice is always find a business case. Start with finding a business case. Find something that you can reason will give you a return on investment if you solve the problem. That, of course, requires some knowledge of how long or how many AI companies do we need to go around, because we don't necessarily know what solutions are out there. But by and large, we can automate anything more or less to some degree. Certainly anything that has to do with moving pallets around, anything that has to do with estimating volumes, we can do. Anything around stock counting, we can do. So if any of those processes related to that are particularly annoying and costly, that's where to start.
Awesome.
And then, pilot and deploy.
Well, thank you for just explaining that further. I have a question here from the chat saying, how long time should we expect for 1, implementation, and 2, ROI?
Shall I take that?
Yeah.
So a typical implementation, once all the purchasing is in order and so on, our longest deployment times are 1 to 2 weeks. Okay, that's it. The one joker in that is integration into internal IT systems. Now, our solutions generally don't require a lot of integration, so there isn't any work. But if you wanted a full real-time exchange of data, then obviously you're looking at a month or 2. But again, the data exchange are very simple. So, a couple of weeks and then any one of our systems will be up and running at scale.
Yes.
Return on investment, I'd say our slowest return on investment is around 9 months in the worst case for a fairly small warehouse. Our quickest return on investment is 1 to 2 months.
Perfect. I have another question. I think, depending on who would like to take that one, but it's a quite interesting question asking how to overcome the psychological fear about implementing AI on different levels in the company.
Yeah, I'm happy to take that one.
Awesome.
It's a big ask and it's really challenging. I know I touched a bit on how AI can be scary. I mean, we see some of that more on the generative AI side, I will say, in recent news, of course, where that can seem really, really intimidating. I think first and foremost is data. Understanding a bit more of what you'll actually be capturing and ensuring that you're choosing AI partners who are very security focused. So of course, here at Sentispec, we've got security certifications. We are extremely GDPR compliant, more so than those constraints even, and those sorts of things. So I think first and foremost, just the data around security is really, really helpful, and I think alleviates a lot of that fear. When it comes to the secondary fear, which can be more at the base level of a company, is being replaced by AI. And I think as we've discussed earlier here, that's not really realistic, if we're being honest, that people would be totally replaced. We're just looking to replace the mundane parts of the work, essentially. And that's pretty much the motivation across the AI space for the most part. So I think understanding that creating that security of you're not being replaced, you're just being put in a more useful and productive space in your role, and of course having that data to explain the security of the solutions that you're choosing, and choosing those secure solutions is really, really helpful to mitigate any of that fear from top to bottom within your organization.
I would definitely agree on that. We also have another question asking, how is your experience with the reception of AI tools from the employees on the floor? And do you see a lot of resistance there? Carlen, I think that might also be something for you.
Sure. Yeah, I was just on the floor yesterday, actually, in a warehouse in Sweden. So this is a bit top of mind as we transition to expand their use case with our inventory solution. A lot of resistance, no. The short answer, we don't really see that, but we do see some. We do need to make sure that we plan for the change and getting it into your workflows. I think any of us here, regardless of if we're in a warehouse ourselves or we sit in an office and learned a new CRM tool or whatever that may be, it's just getting into that habit of making those changes. So while we don't see resistance, I would say, it's just something that we do support pretty heavily on the deployment side of things, and of course, continued onboarding support and customer success here at Sentispec is more just ensuring that it's getting fully baked into their solutions, because of course, change is tough, but we always want to get there in the end.
I think
could probably add one comment to that. I remember a couple of times where very early on, when we were less used to training people, there was a few people worried about cameras and GDPR and taking pictures of them. We saw an individual case. We've actually only seen one case of this, of someone sabotaging a camera because they were worried, it would take pictures of them. And then at that point, we changed our approach to be focused on training and educating these people who are going to be around these systems as to what it actually does. And once they realize what it actually does, it's like, oh, that's great. Can I have more of that, please? It makes my life easier. Yes. Then you're in business, right? I would also say that the less esoteric and the more specific we can be around what the problem is that we're solving, the easier it is to get that buy-in from top to bottom. Because if you say it is this specific user process, it is loading of containers, we are going to take X amount of time and cost out of that, and we're going to reduce the amount of errors, and here's how we're going to do it, then you get that buy-in a lot quicker and a lot deeper as well.
Awesome. Well, I think there is no new question that has been asked since the last one. Yeah, then I would say a big thank you once again for everyone's involvement in today's webinar. And I would say let's stay connected and continue to collaborate towards a future where AI enhances efficiency and transparency in supply chains. Take care, everyone, and I'm excited to see you next time around.